I'm Eira Joy, and welcome to On Courage, a podcast that explores a fundamental virtue for each one of us, no matter our backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. After a career setback, I wrestled deeply with self-doubt and fear, eventually realizing that in order to rebuild my confidence, I had to start by rediscovering my courage. I've been reading books and listening to experts, but I figured I needed to be surrounding myself with courageous people too. And that's why I'm here with you as you listen today, hopefully on board my mission to learn from creative people who have harnessed the power of courage to find success in their careers and fulfilment in their lives. This is a podcast on courage for all those who, like me, long to grow a little more courageous each and every day. Today's guest is Michael Dimarco, an all-round creative. He writes, edits, directs, and produces films, and is so passionate about telling stories that inspire other people. And his story inspires me. I really loved hearing about his creative journey, starting with watching his grandfather make little home movies using an old-school video camera from the 90s, to then navigating an industry that's full of rejections, disappointments, and temptations. But with Michael's courage, resilience, persistence, and integrity, he overcame a lot of setbacks, and he never let that creative spark inside of him fade away. I hope you enjoy this very empowering and insightful conversation. Happy listening. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
Well, we're grateful to have you on. We're so excited to chat and learn more about what you do and who you are and the amazing ideas in your head.
Yes.
But let's start with a little snapshot about who you are. If you can just introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, look, I ask myself that same question every day. Who am I? I am a filmmaker. I'm a writer by trade. It's sort of what my go-to. It's where I've started. As we'll probably discuss, I've gone through a lot of processes in the film industry, different roles, different positions, but ideally I classify myself as an editor now. It's my goal. It's my focus moving forward. So writer-editor is the short version of who I am.
Excellent. And we know that that's just a little snapshot because we'll figure out all these wonderful things.
Oh, look, I still am as well myself. So, we'll figure it out together.
We'll figure it out together. I love that. But before we get there, I kind of want to start from the beginning. So if we can kind of rewind the clock and think about maybe, 5-year-old Michael.
5-year-old? We're going that far back.
Okay, yeah, that far back. Well, as far back as you can remember, because I know I don't really have a good memory of that age. But as a child, I want to get to know who you remember you were back then. I mean, it's a really big question, but do you remember the kind of things that you were passionate about at that age, the things that lit you up? And I guess I want to see if there were any significant moments from your childhood that have kind of hinted you to become the person you are today.
Quite interesting, yeah. And it's funny, I was thinking about it before and I almost forgot this memory, but it actually came back to me today before coming on tonight to talk to you. So long story short, and it's actually kind of funny because a lot of people in the creative industry tend to have the same story. They come from an upbringing that's quite rough, quite broken, quite difficult. I'm no different to that. I've got my stories of struggle, of pain. I've got the scars on my body to prove it. So I've got a lot of stories and inspiration from my childhood that did develop or have developed who I am today. But I remember as a kid being in this kind of broken home, and my grandfather, who pretty much raised me, he was really into filming. And I didn't know that. He wasn't like professionally, he didn't do like short films or anything that I sort of do today. He just did home videos. And we're talking the early 90s here. So video cameras kind of were just becoming a thing. And it was these huge bulky things that, people were kind of experimenting with. And I remember him just giving me this video camera one day and just saying, just go for it. And I remember feeling safe behind the camera. And I remember filming stuff that was ugly and stuff that made me feel scared and stuff that made me feel unsafe, but feeling really safe behind this camera. Even though I'm still technically in the moment, but it's like, because I'm watching it through a lens, it's not real. And it's like I'm creating the story. And that memory kind of came back to me that I've forgotten about. And it really was the start of this sort of filmmaking journey for, I would have been like maybe 8 or 9. And I just remember shooting just random stuff thinking, yeah, there's a passion here. I really love playing with this camera. And it just kind of grew from there.
I love that. I've never actually heard someone say that before. That, you hear a lot of people who are, performers,
Yeah.
singers, or, in theater where the stage is their home. But I've actually never heard someone say that they feel a safety behind the camera. So I think that's actually quite
And that's
beautiful. But
continued to this day. So
yeah.
even though I'm not a DOP, and in fact, I actually don't even give me a camera. I hate filming. I hate it. I actually like it's. I don't know. It's just I don't. We all have a love and hate with things that we love, and filming
Mm.
just nah. I don't want that responsibility. But just being on set, I feel safe when I'm on set.
And you said your grandfather obviously was one of the influential people, but
Yeah,
not from a professional point of view, more that he would have a camera and you would,
you just
join him in
yeah.
filming. Yeah. Um, did he ever talk about this as a possible career choice, or is it
No,
something?
it wasn't
No,
even back
okay.
then. I mean, I say back then, we're talking early 90s. But, um, no, I mean, he's passed away, but he was quite switched on. And I was in primary school at the time, and I was writing and I was creative, and I'm pretty sure he was aware of that. But no, there was never discussion of like, oh, you're going to be a filmmaker one day. It was just, you like doing this and it makes you feel good and you feel safe. So just keep doing it. And that's all I ever got from that, was just keep doing it. So maybe that was the advice. Just keep doing it.
Yes, yes. And that's really nice to have someone who supported that in you. I know that a lot of creative people don't always have that person who nurtures their creativity. So it's so nice to hear that your grandfather was that for you.
Yeah.
And so when you were, as you were getting older and, starting high school, did you continued that passion, but did you ever think about it in the lens of a job? I'm
Ne-
curious how it started to play out for you.
yeah. Look, never as a job. That kind of happened after high school, when it was like, okay, who do I want to be when I grow up? And I still ask that question today. I think a lot of us do. But it was more that in high school, I was really excelling in English and creative storytelling, creative writing. I did a lot of subjects in that sort of field. I did media. So I didn't do maths. I didn't do, all the other sort of technical stuff. I did all the media writing, creative writing kind of courses. And I was always told that, even when in my essay writing, I was always told, you're writing to like script. You're not writing like an essay writer should write, kind of thing. Like my essay writing wasn't, following a typical format. It was always through storytelling in the like either first or third person. And so that just stayed with me. And it wasn't until really after high school that I went to uni, and just even applying for the uni and even doing the uni course, I still didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I was following a passion. And it's so cliche and it's so typical in a sense that it's like, oh, I was just following a passion. But I didn't realize this could be a career for me, not until after even uni. Like we're talking early 2000s before I even, no, not even late 2000s, like 2008 period is when I actually realized, oh, hey, I really enjoy doing this. And this thing that I think is a passion can actually be a career for me. So it wasn't until later,
Yeah.
after even high school, after uni, that I went, I'm going to turn my passion into a career.
Yeah, do you think back in hindsight that that probably was a positive thing? Because I think about most people who, when once they kind of get a sense of what they could potentially do after school, is that they create this pressure. Well, I certainly did. It's like once people
Yeah,
started to, put you in that box that, okay, she's decided that she wants to be a journalist. So you kind of
right.
make sure that you do everything to stay on that path, rather than what you did was just kind of follow this a passion, follow a
Just
desire
passion,
that you had.
honestly, like, and,
Yeah.
most, I don't know if it still happens, these days, and I use inverted commas, but I remember when I was in year 12, and this was 2005, that we had to go through a careers counselor at the time, and I'll never forget sitting in that careers counselor's office in my high school, room, and telling her, I don't know. I don't know what I want to be. I don't know what my skills are. I didn't know. And even she was trying to work it out with me. And I go, well, I like to write and I like to film and I like to inspire people by creating stories, but I don't know what to do with that. And, fortunately, I went to a great high school and whatnot, but she didn't know how to help me. So she didn't know, like, what sort of roles, like, she couldn't, she could have said copywriting, she could have said journalism or things, but that never came up. So because of that, I left high school still confused and still going, well,
Yeah.
everyone's telling me that you can't make anything out of yourself with this, or you can't be anyone, like, so get a real job. Well, what's a real job? I don't know what that is. I've never been told that. Like, would you even, if someone said to you, get a real job, what would you say? Like, what, become a lawyer? Like, I don't know.
Yes, it's so interesting, isn't it? And I think that issue still rings true to today. Like, I think that's, even though so much as the job landscape and education has changed so much, I think young people always have that problem of, who am I and what am I
Well, I
meant to do
think,
in life?
like, with that, it's like we're all striving for success, whatever that looks like. And we're all trying to get to this success. You have to be successful. And to be successful, you have to have either, a six-figure paycheck, a big house or family. Like, for me, when I was in high school and even at uni doing a course that I'm still paying off to this day through X, it was like trying to be successful, but not realizing that in my own way I was. But because I wasn't doing a real job, people were like, well, what are you achieving here? So
Yes.
it's interesting. And I'm wondering if, as you said, if I am sure, people today are still, like, I don't know what the support's like these days, because it wasn't there for me, basically.
Yes. I think it's probably, as I said, the challenge is still there, especially now because of the vast nature of the opportunities available. Before it was kind of these are the only jobs, but when you think about
Yeah,
technology, how many more
true.
jobs have been created, how many more that haven't yet been created. So, but you're so right about the, creativity itself being classified as, something that's not substantial as a job by kind of like normal conventional standards. And I found it's because there's no clear pathway. There's no kind of step process to get into the film industry. Everyone ends up there in different ways. So it's not like
Or
law
accident.
or medicine or accident. Yeah. So I want to hear more about that part of your
My
journey.
accident. Yeah.
Yes. No, but so once you had figured out that, oh, this is actually a possible career path, what did you do from there?
So I graduated. So I went to the VCA, for those in, Melbourne, Victoria, and hated it. They kind of teach you to hate yourself. I think a lot of uni creative
Oh,
art schools do that, and that was fine. So I kind of got over that, and I graduated in 2008. And by accident, I'm going to use the word accident because it kind of really happened. I went to a networking night, in Melbourne, and met one of the, writers of Neighbours, and kind of snowballed from there. In a way, I was kind of just, I think I had more confidence back then, but I didn't know what I was sort of getting into, so I had nothing to lose, so I didn't really care. And so I just promoted the crap out of myself, and I ended up landing this freelancing gig on Neighbours, and that kind of started my writing journey in the industry. And I did that for about 3 years on and off. It's such a tough job, and it was my first sort of creative job. Like, I had done other sort of freelancing work, and I helped a lot of people. I was, student films, and obviously with uni, you've got to do a lot of, like, student films and stuff, and you kind of work together after and help each other out. But kind of doesn't really lead anywhere. It's just kind of like you're doing it because it's fun and it's passion. And this was like my first paid real job, where it was like the expectation, the stress, the pressure. You had to write like 5 episodes a week. None of them may not even get shown. You may not even have actually, like, you might write 5 episodes a week, which would take you like 2 full days or 3 like full days, and then not get paid for any of it because none of it gets aired. So you only get paid if the episode gets chosen.
Oh, gosh.
So, but then the expectation of all these scripts that you had to write, all these episodes that you had to write, were like, well, if you want to keep this sort of job, like, we need episodes from you, or you'll just sort of phase out of the selection sort of process.
Oh.
So it's like, if you're not submitting any like work, then you're just forgotten about, basically. It's not like, oh, I won't do 5 this week and I'll give you 5 next week. It's like, no, if you want to keep your job, I need 5 episodes from you by the end of the week. But then you might not get paid because they may not choose any. So it was this,
Oh my
anyways.
goodness.
So
you're already employed as a writer, but you're effectively competing
basically
to get paid or recognized for your work every week.
And yeah, because I didn't sort of really know any better, or I just thought, okay, well, I've got this credit. I'm part of the End and Will Shine kind of crew. I'm like involved with this sort of massive show that I've grown up watching. I didn't care. I just thought, well, if anything, I kind of still approach this today as like, yeah, you've got to write so much and you may not get accepted, but it's keeping you going. It's keeping you creative. It's like, I thought, well, if I don't get chosen, then at least I'm like practicing my writing skills. The more you write, the better you get. I was obviously lucky enough that a couple of episodes did get chosen, and I was able to sort of do it for 3 years, on and off. But it taught me to hate writing. So I stopped writing for ages because I'm like, if I have to write another script, I'll scream. So I took a big break after that because I kind of just, it became fast food type energy. Like, it was more just like, I've got no passion to write anymore.
It wasn't fulfilling you.
So it took me a while to get sort of around that. But while writing for Neighbours and sort of still doing like other films as well, I did a couple of short films that I wrote and got produced in that period. I was living, in a household that was full of creative actors, and I was kind of living that sort of, glamorous Hollywood fake life that you see and read about, that Real Housewife type that, that people watch and want to kind of live and think it's like this beautiful thing. And I was kind of doing it for a while, and looking back on it now, like, I could have gone down a really different path, if I wasn't smart in my choices.
So there was a lot of temptation in the industry.
A lot of drugs. Like, I was living in this beautiful house, in a prestige suburb in Melbourne called Kew, and lived with an actor who was on Neighbours. And then there was someone else living with us. Obviously, I can't name names, but basically, long story short, there was someone who was a Gold Logie winning actor, and has also won other awards and quite well known in the industry at the time. He was on a different soap opera. Now, this person I looked up to in the industry, I even had their poster up on my wall as a child. I was gay, and I was, you have your posters and whatnot. And and to have him sort of sleep on the couch because he had no home or not sort of nowhere to live, it was kind of opened up my eyes to the industry to go, you know what, this is someone who is got a Gold Logie, quite successful, quite well known, but at the moment has no work, no income, and is sleeping on our couch because he's got nowhere else to live. Made me go, wow, this isn't as glamorous as I think it is, because how can you have a Gold Logie but not have any work? Like, it just, in my mind, and I was young, I was only 21 at the time, and I saw him sleeping on the couch thinking, well, I don't want to end up there. So maybe this isn't a good career choice for me. And it really changes things. Like, it opens up your eyes to a different world, and the reality, I suppose, of it's not a glamorous industry. It's hard work. It's really hard work.
Thank you for sharing that story and opening our eyes to the darker side of the industry, because I think that gets overlooked, as you said, by all of the glamour. But it actually just highlights to me your maturity at that age. Because I mean, if you're 21, you could have easily gone down the same path. So I'm just curious how.
And I got offers too. Like, I could be,
Yeah,
there are some well-known, shows that have come and gone on in the Australian industry that I could have been a main writer for, that I turned those offers down.
I connect back to what you said earlier, that you're still kind of on a journey, still figuring out what you want to do and who you are. But I think in that story and your decision to do something different to what was around you actually shows to me that you do know who you are. You knew your
Yeah.
values enough to kind of turn away and say no to all of those distractions and temptations. So that's quite courageous, if you will. I think,
Yeah,
for you
look,
to do
I
that at
mean, at the
21,
time,
yeah.
I mean, at the time, I didn't see it that way, because I still was confused, and I still didn't know how this could be a career. I just knew it was still a passion. But all of a sudden, the passion, because after writing for Nabes, and as I said, the writing side, the passion of writing left. So then the passion of being in the industry kind of started to go, because of what I was seeing physically around me. So it was kind of like, I still have this fire in me, but I don't know. I don't want to end up like these people. I know it sounds really horrible to say, but it's like, I don't want to end up, you know, being addicted to drugs, not having like anywhere to live, not having a job. And then I'm like, and because I'm young and I wasn't probably mentored properly and educated properly, and because no one, and don't forget too, my friends and those close to me and family were still telling me, well, that's not a real career. How are you going to survive? So I was still getting that. I was seeing it and I was hearing it from my family. So when you around all of that, you can't help but to question, well, is this really worth it, or what am I doing? Like, am I just wasting my life and my time?
Well, 100% all of the self-doubt would have started to creep in, because you're not seeing good examples of
No.
what it is to kind of thrive or succeed in that pathway. So, what was it, do you think, thinking back, motivated you to stick with the craft of it? Because obviously all of the things that come with being in entertainment, all of those negative things you mentioned, were turning you off. But clearly there was something you said. You said it, you called it the fire inside of you. What was that for you? What was driving you and motivating you to keep at it?
So, good question. So basically, for me, the small, and I say small, group of people that were around me. So in all of that was going on, the drugs, the partying, the neighbors, the other stuff that was happening, I was still doing my side independent projects. So I was still writing independently. I was still shooting uh, short films, and still doing my own stories from my own personal experiences. So those people that I worked with, those really small crew that stuck with me, their support in wanting to work with me and their feedback on my storytelling, and look, I don't want to try not to egotistical this, or you know whatever you want to call it, but it was those probably three or four people, like, honestly, on one hand I could count them. One of them I'm still super super close friends with. We've got an 18-year relationship. She's watched me growing up. I mean, she met me when I was 18 and we did our first short feature together. She has believed in me and keeps reminding me that despite all that side of it, you've got a gift, you've got a talent, and people want to work with you because you are. And it's true. I approach the industry very differently. Like, I'm very giving, and I'm very much like, I may not have money to pay you. Now it's different. Now I will always pay my talent, but back then I couldn't, and I was young. But I'm like, what can I do? What can we do to make this project? And it was that kind of attitude and that willingness that people wanted to work with me and they wanted to help tell my story. That went, you know what? There are people that's like that faith, and those small people that did believe in me are the ones that I hold on to and go, okay, this is why I do it. I do it for them. And I'll be honest here, this is a real feedback that I got from one of my films. I had someone who watched one of my films who wanted to suicide and didn't, because of the story that I told. So I'm not saying that I saved that person's life, but I definitely influenced it. And when you get that kind of feedback, you can't not keep going. So I do it
Yeah.
for those people that just need some influence or just some motivation to not give up.
Mm. That's so true, because sometimes I've heard too, being when you're creative, and we saw it throughout the pandemic, that we're seen as kind of non-essential.
Yeah, yeah.
Non-essential. Our work is non-essential, but we are so influenced by the art that surrounds us, the stories that are told, whether they're written or they're filmed or whatever it is. So it really speaks to the power of storytelling.
Well, it does.
And
I mean, we go to the movies to escape, not to continue. We watch movies so we can just get away from our lives for an hour or two. So, you know, yeah, it's valuable.
I love that that's one of your greatest motivators, because it really kind of it aligns with your own values. It's not attached to what other people think, and I think
Yeah,
you mentioned it earlier, this idea of success and what
looks
success
like. Yeah,
actually, yeah, what it looks like, what it means, can throw us off our path, or the path that we're destined to be on. So I'd love you to speak more about that, because as you're, throughout your experiences as a filmmaker, a writer, and an editor, um, how have you reframed what success means
yeah, what it
in
looks
the
like.
context of a career? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I kind of want to highlight for everyone before I forget, is that just because you don't win awards or just because your name isn't up on lights doesn't mean you're not successful. I really want to stress that to anyone watching. Don't be discouraged or don't give up like I wanted to, because my name wasn't up there, or I wasn't being recognized, or I was applying for jobs being shut down or turned back because, well, your portfolio is empty, or you've got no IMDb credits or whatever. That doesn't mean you're not successful. I get booked on a regular basis now as a freelancer because of a lot of it is word of mouth. So it is, unfortunately, on some level who you know, but it gets easier as you kind of build a bit of a portfolio. Once you work with a couple of clients, they all do. Word of mouth is a huge thing. Every business will say the same thing. The film industry is no different. Word of mouth is going to get your work. And just quickly, like I'm pretty booked up as it is, just based on that. But you speak to sort of anyone in the industry, and they won't know who I am. I'm a nobody technically, but I'm booked. So that to me is like that's still a success. So for me, going through that period of like really sort of not hating myself, but hating just the industry, losing that passion, kind of really questioning everything, because I'm like, well, I'm not really feeling successful. And then I'm like, okay, well, if this person's ended up, jobless and on a couch, is that success? So you kind of really question a lot of like, well, this person technically is successful because they've got that gold logie. So, but yet here they are. And obviously now I realize, because the ironic part is I'm sleeping on the couch now. I'm currently in between. I'm couch surfing now, not because of like, don't get me wrong, I don't do the drugs or anything, but I'm just saving money to get my own place. So yeah, the 360 is real.
Different. There's a different reason.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I was looking at the time, I looked at that and I went, okay, well, that's what success looks like. I don't know. Like, and I'm kind of going off like on a tangent here, and I'm trying to bring it back to the point. We'll get there. Yeah, I think it's just not being discouraged, really. It's just, if you don't win that award, it doesn't mean your film wasn't successful, and doesn't mean you're not successful. If you've made the film, that alone is a success.
Yeah.
I've got like films in the progress this year that I'm trying to make, and just getting funding or just even shooting one scene, to me, that's a success, because I've done it. I actually did it,
Yeah.
So if you've actually got a completed film and it's actually gone into a festival, because that's also hard in itself, trying to get a film into a festival. So if your film's been shown and people have seen it, just because you didn't win doesn't mean you failed. And I think that's really, really important. Don't think that just because you don't have that little leaf emblem thing on your little poster to say, oh, hey, we won, doesn't mean you failed. You
Yes.
and if you don't actually, and I'll rewind, if you don't get into a film festival, don't think that's a failure either. Because it's based on a matter of opinion. Someone has to decide whether they want to see your film or not. And they've just decided they didn't like it, or didn't fit some criteria. Doesn't mean you failed as a filmmaker, as a writer, as a director, as a producer. It just means that it's just not the right fit. but you've got a completed project and that's a success. So celebrate
Yes.
those small successes.
Yes, the small successes, the small little wins and milestones that we tend to overlook.
Yeah,
And
if you've written a
I
script and a director wants to direct that, that's a success. Someone wants actually want to work with you and actually wants to make your story, that's
yes.
successful. Celebrate that.
Yes. Yeah, it's so interesting that creatives really just overlook that. We
Yeah.
overlook the significance of the process because we're always attached to the outcomes and the tangibility of, what becomes of our project. It's as if, that award defines the quality of that project or the
Yeah.
meaning of that project. I think it's, if you've written something, even if just writing finishing a script, like for me, that would be like a massive
I mean,
achievement, right?
I mean, we've spoken obviously backstage, and
Yeah.
I've got a feature film that I'm trying to write, and yeah, I just need to get started. So yeah,
Yeah.
even just starting is a success for me at
Yes,
this stage.
yes. Yeah, or like, the first 500 words,
Yeah.
like just giving yourself the motivation and building momentum from it. Yeah, because I think we're so self-critical as creative people. I think we attach so much weight to the final outcome when we don't really just embrace the beauty of, because I think too, if you've got the luxury of being able to, I don't know, have a pen and paper, have a computer, write some stuff, film some stuff, you've got a camera. That's
Mm.
already kind of a privilege if you think about it in the grand
And
scheme of things.
most smartphones these days shoot in 4K. So even if you wanted to do a quick 2
Yeah.
minute clip, you can on your mobile phone these days.
Yep. Yep. So, and that's why, again, the basic premise of what we're trying to do in Encourage is to really hero this idea of creativity being a courageous endeavor. That no matter what you're creating, if you're daring to do something, make something out of nothing, well, you've got to be pretty brave to take that risk when there are no
Well,
guarantees.
I,
So,
I did it last year. I did the start of last year. I decided I'm not working the 9 to 5 job anymore. I decided that I didn't
yes.
want to work for anyone. So I quit to do this full time.
Yes. So talk to me more about that phase in your life, because obviously that was a massive risk to take. What happened for you to kind of just click and say, no, this is not for me?
Yeah, of course. So it kind of started pre-COVID. Yeah, before COVID. I was with a partner. It was quite a serious relationship, and he just, again, it's funny how you kind of the familiarity of close people to, like, people close to you not supporting the industry or all the choices. So he was one of them. Something I didn't kind of really become too aware of until it was already like too deep into the relationship. And he just sort of kept saying to me, like, he supported the creative stuff, but on a hobby level, and basically was like, you really, like, for us to sort of support each other and be able to live. Not that we even lived together, which was interesting. But yeah, he just sort of, when you need to get a 9 to 5 job because that's just what you do. What's this film stuff? Like, he just couldn't understand it. I thought, that's fine. So to please him, I went and got a job. I started in retail. I worked through retail management right up into real estate and did, property management and things like that for ages. Hated it. Wasn't even a passion. Property's not even, I have no interest in property. I just happened to get a job through a friend, and again, it's who you know. But I got this job. I worked in real estate for a short period, for other people, not for me. And all the other jobs that I did, I've worked for juice companies. I've worked for, honestly, name the industry. I've done recruitment. I have jumped around so many times. Like, my resume, I don't even bother anymore. It's page long because I don't keep a job for long. And that was also an issue with my family, because, like, you can't keep a job. And it's like, well, because I don't want the job. I'm doing it for you, not for me. So anyway, long story short, that relationship ended because I kind of just put my foot down a little bit and went, no, you know what? Where's the compromise? I'm dying. My soul's dying. And because I wasn't being creative, so while I was doing the corporate 9 to 5 job, I wasn't creating because I didn't feel like I was allowed to or I could. Plus, I wasn't motivated or passionate about. So for about 5 or 6 years, maybe even more, I didn't do nothing creative. No films, no writing, no directing. Like, completely lost all my contacts that I had built for the last probably 12 years. Good contacts too. All the networking nights I stopped going. Like, there's a whole history that I was building for myself that just ended. Like, it never happened. And that's fine. I actually am really grateful now. I was angry back then, but now I'm actually grateful because I was able to start again. So then COVID happened and I thought, you know what, this is it. We're all locked in. I'm based in Melbourne, and I think you are as well. So you understand we were locked in bad.
Yeah.
So I had time to think, a lot of time to think, a
Yes.
lot of time. And it was honestly, like, I'm not glamorizing it, but COVID was the best thing to happen to me because it really, I always say COVID either was a blessing to a lot of people or you wasted your time. Because if you actually use that time wisely, which I think was granted to us, again, we'll leave it there. But I feel like that time was granted to us to really reassess, what do you want to do? This is the time. Like, now, if you want to make a change, this is the time because you'll never get this again. And I thought, I'm not going to waste it. So I actually really just reassessed and I hit that reset button and I went, nah. And I just wrote. And for the first time in, like, say, 6 years, 5, 6 years. And when I say write, I typed because I do still use, I still have pen and paper, but I typed.
Yes.
But just putting words on screen, and I started just doing poetry. I just wrote a bunch of poetry.
Nice.
And it just opened up the floodgates and reminded me of the passion that I really had and lost and forgot even that I had. So it was a really big reminder for me. And because we had it was about 2 years of, say, lockdown, I had about 3 scripts ready to go. And as soon as we were open, I just went film, bang, bang, bang. And because everyone wanted to just film, it didn't matter. Like, I still tried to pay, but everyone would, like, I'll just work for free. I'll just help. Like, 'cause people just wanted to, because no one had a portfolio, no one had any work done. So they were like, yeah, we'll just do it because we need to just do something. So I had so much support, and it was like going from not having that support for so long and growing up within the industry to all of a sudden, like, didn't matter. I could just call someone random. They'd be like, yeah, sure. When do you want, where do you want me to meet you? Like, we'll just do it. So that kind of reignited for me, and it kind of just carried through. And I was still kind of working the 9 to 5, but more for myself. I wasn't actually working for anyone else. I was doing my own sort of business. Like, I was sort of under someone, but still kind of freelancing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? This is working. I kind of was like, even though I'm still on a wage, I'm still building on my own portfolio. I'm still kind of working for myself. And I thought, I can do this. Like, and I've started to because I had to rebuild my whole network, basically. As I said, I lost it all. So when I sort of had the confidence to go, you know what, I'm ready. The start January 2023, my lease was coming to an end on December 2022. And I had the choice to renew or leave. And I thought, if I renew, then I need to keep kind of this semi-corporate work to pay for the lease. But I don't really want to do that anymore. So I didn't sign the lease, and I went, you know what, that's it. I'm just going to freelance and get my own clients, do my own thing on my own time, on my own schedule. Yes, I'm still couch surfing. It's literally a year to the date, and I'm still couch surfing, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I am working full time in the creative industry. I worked out where I fit into the industry because I was trying to work out. I loved writing, and I loved directing, and I produced. I've done production management. I've done casting. And I love it all still, but it's funny going back to even my childhood, I just didn't see a career. I couldn't work out where my career was. I was doing everything, but nothing was feeling like a career to me. And it's only been in the last 3 to 4 months that I've gone, I love editing. And it's a huge passion. So I've invested all my money and time into training to become a qualified editor. And that's finally, after 36 years, I see a career in this industry.
Yeah. That inspires me so much, Michael, because honestly, like, you put yourself out there, and it's through you actively doing things that you discover more about what you're meant to do. Because I think a lot of us one day just wait for inspiration to drop. We're just sitting there and like, one day I'm going to know exactly, I'm going to have that clarity. But your clarity came out of you hustling and, continually doing things. So I'd really admire that. And I guess I want to know, like, when you said before, losing your network and having to rebuild it and writing 3 scripts while people were learning to make banana bread, you were like writing scripts.
I did orange and poppy seed muffins.
Okay, as well. That is the most productive use of your time. But being ready to go to produce those films, once lockdown's lifted. But How do you muster up that courage to do that? Like, I wrestle a lot with self-doubt and just, what people think of me,
Mm. Oh,
but what gives you, that drive to kind of like pick up the phone or just say, "Hey, would you be part of this project? Would you do this for me?" I just really curious.
that's a really, really good question. I don't know actually, honestly, how to answer that. For me, I actually don't have confidence. I am the most
Oh,
quietest, honestly, like,
it's so hard to believe, isn't it?
and
Like,
I hear that a lot, but when I'm talking about, like, because I love, maybe I'm vain. I like to talk about myself, but I love inspiring. And
Yeah.
in all seriousness, I love to inspire and I love to sort of tell my story because I don't see my story as unique and I don't see it as anything different to anyone else's story. I think all of us have a story to tell, all on an equal level, can be influenced on some level from that. And I'm passionate and driven by that. So for me, I might come across as confident, but I'm the quietest. Like, I will never go up to someone at a bar. I am the last person in the room to start a conversation. Like, I am the quiet person that will carry a conversation, but I'll never start one. And
Mm.
that's who I am. But when it comes to something I'm passionate about and that I believe in, I can't explain it. It's like this adrenaline kind of kicks in. I think for me, I've lost so much in my life and I have come from nothing. And that's not to glamorize or to this pity party type situation. I come from a very broken home. I had to grow up quite quickly. And I think for me, rejection I've had all my life. And I've been told from as far back as I can remember that what you're doing isn't good enough or you're not, like, this isn't a real job. When you hear that kind of negativity for so long, it kind of just becomes numb. Like, you become numb to it. That
Mhm.
it's like, well, you're not telling me anything new. So for me, rejection isn't something new. It's like I'm used to it. So that's probably the only
Wow.
way I can really, and I know it
Mm.
sounds sort of sad and dramatic, but it's like I use that as confidence to go, well, if this person doesn't want to fund my film, someone will, because in the past, someone has. So it's just finding that person that wants to work with you. And what I've learned basically is if you're getting a rejection, it's like, say, a relationship doesn't work out. I don't know if you watch like Married at First Sight or other reality shows or just in general life. If that person ghosts you or if that person does like ends up, being stood up or whatever, and they say, oh, you've dodged a bullet. I kind of like to take that mentality into rejection. It's like if that person didn't want to fund your film or didn't want to work with you, maybe you've dodged a bullet because the person that wants to work with you will.
That's amazing. That's really good because it's an optimistic kind of mindset. But
Yeah.
rather than giving into those, the negative emotion. And look, we all can feel sad and feel rejected. It's just a basic human thing. But for you not to dwell in that space.
It's still hard. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm still human, and rejection hurts. And when I do get that rejection, especially if it's someone I really want to work with, or it's like
Yes.
I'm really relying on this opportunity, yeah, you kind of have your pity moment. You're like, okay, I need a day, or a couple of days just to almost mourn that, and then,
Yes.
but it's not staying in that energy. It's like, okay, mourn it, feel upset, feel rejected because you're still human,
Yep.
but go back. Okay, well, that's fine. It's happened. Now I've got to try again. I always use the KFC story as a good example, like how many times he was rejected, and now it's like this
Oh,
global
Colonel
business.
Sanders.
Yeah,
Yes. To only find success in his, what was he, in his 60s or
60s
something
or
like that.
70s or like, yeah,
Yeah.
like, so it's, don't be discouraged. I mean, I know that's such a old cliche kind of story, but it's still relevant. Like, it's, people still get rejected
Yeah.
and find success later in their life. There's no magical way or light switch or rule book of how to feel when it comes to being rejected. Like, there's no rule to kind of not feel heard or whatever. You're going to feel it. It's just finding that courage or something to just keep going. And it does pay
Yes.
off. Even if, the second, third, fourth, fifth still doesn't work. I know you want to give up. I've been there. It changes. You've just got to find a way to keep pushing through. That's all I can
Yes.
say.
Yes. Having that persistence and the resilience to, yeah, keep going. But also, I think in a way, I'm trying to learn from myself, just expecting. is expecting that things won't go your way, or like just being
Oh,
or accepting if it doesn't go your way, that, especially in our industry, like rejection's a part of it. It's
that's
part of the game, right? And when I think about, when I talk to actors, that's what I always pick their brains about, because their job relies on,
I don't even know how they
going
do it.
through, yeah,
I really
auditioning
don't know.
and
Oh,
just putting yourself out there, being so vulnerable, and to know that what your chances are so slim to land in a job. And oftentimes, what I've been told by an actor that I previously interviewed, that he's learned not to take it personal, because he said that it's sometimes him not getting the part is not because of his lack of talent. It's just that he wasn't right for that particular part.
and
That
that
they
is
were
so
looking.
important. That is so
Yes,
important.
yeah, that you might not have the right look or the right vibe or whatever it is. So I think, yeah, that everyone can take that advice as well. But it's hard to when you're in the moment, as you said. But I think it is important to kind of feel the feels, but don't dwell in them. Don't dwell in
No.
that space. With regards to, achieving your dreams and finding success in the way that it looks like for you, I want to know now what some of the more practical lessons you've learned.
The biggest lesson I learned, and I had to learn this really the hard way, is lose the ego. Lose the
Yeah.
ego 100%. And I say this to all new clients, all new budding filmmakers that might be watching this thinking, yeah, I'm going to go out there and I'm not going to be rejected because I'm good enough. You're already rejected. That's just the
Yeah.
honest truth. Like, lose the ego. I had it. I had it for years because I thought, yeah, I knew it all. And, I'm surrounded by these people and they're going to support me. And you just, at the time, and experience and age does play a factor. I don't care how mature you say you are. If you're a mature 21-year-old or an immature 55-year-old, experience in life does play a big role in this. But ego is what ruins a lot of just opportunities. It's just lose the ego, honestly. As I said, I had it. I lost a lot of respect. This industry, especially in Australia, is very small and everyone knows everyone. And once you burn one bridge or say one bad thing, you probably won't have a job for a long time or ever. It's just cutthroat. When people say it's tough and rejection's a real thing and it's a hard industry to get into, people aren't saying that because they're trying to discourage you or they're trying to put you off. They're trying to help you or even warn you to go, it's tough. It's not, yes, there are some really quick success stories and fantastic to those. But if you look at all those success stories compared to those trying to break in, it weighs out, really. But yeah, if you're going to go in with thinking you know it all and that you're the next Steven Spielberg, I'm sorry, you won't make it. And I'm not being
Yeah.
rude. You won't, because you're not.
Yeah.
And also too, on that, it's not that you're not, it's that you're you. I'm not like, I will never be
Yes.
Steven or Quentin or, all those big
Yeah.
names, because I'm Michael and I'm going to tell my story.
Yes.
And once you kind of work out who you are, and again, it's funny, I want to bring it back to love. Once you love yourself and you know who you are, then you can actually open yourself up to someone else. So when you know the type of filmmaker and storyteller that you want to be, I mean, look, you may not be a writer, you might be watching this wanting to get into editing or production or casting or whatever, but it's still, if you're going in with an ego, you won't get far, not in this industry. And that, to me, that's probably the biggest lesson, the biggest hurdle. It took me years to finally go, you know what? I don't know. So I was on set the other day. I was helping out as directing on a set. And the DOP said something to me that I've never even heard. I'm like, what are you saying? Like, speaking another language to me. He just wanted me to clear the room, basically. But he said he used textbook language, which I haven't heard in a long time. And I don't use textbook. If you want me to clear the room, just, say it.
So,
Anyway,
yeah.
but he basically wanted me to clear the room. And I just looked at him and went, mate, I'm sorry. I actually don't know. What do you want me to do? And he kind of, because he was younger than me and not high school, still in uni. So he was looking at me like, are you professional, kind of thing? And I just went, yeah, this is where you need to learn that people in this industry don't speak high school or uni talk necessarily.
He was using like technical language that
textbook.
Yeah,
Literally textbook.
interesting.
And I said to him, I've actually don't even remember hearing that terminology. Like, yes, I would have learned it back then,
Yeah.
but I've never used it since. And it really kind of made me stop and think, wow, like, yeah, of course. And it's only natural, of course. You've just learned that terminology. You're in
Yes.
uni, you're on
Yeah.
set, you're going to say, oh, you know, all these sort of mid frames and things and
Yeah.
languages that they teach. But I would probably call it something else, and he probably wouldn't even understand what I would call it. So
Yes.
it's like going back to the ego thing. If you lose the ego and just go, mate, I actually don't know what you're saying. What do you want me to do? Oh, cool, no worries, I'll do that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
don't be afraid to be on set. And if someone says to you, like someone asks you to do something and you don't know what that is, just say, hey, sorry, I actually don't know what you mean. I probably understand it as a different terminology or understand it as a different thing. What did you want me to do exactly? Communication. Like,
Yes. And being
drop the
being
ego
okay
and
with,
raise the
yeah.
communication.
That's right. Drop the ego and raise the communication. I like it. And also just, yeah, not assuming you know everything, being
Yeah.
prepared to to be out of the loop. I think that's another thing, because
Well,
it's
I am. I mean,
yeah.
I graduated, I got my degree in 2008. I mean, 4K, red cameras, all that stuff wasn't even,
Yeah.
Facebook wasn't even, Instagram wasn't even invented yet. Snapchat
100%.
wasn't even invented. So for me, it's like, I need to go back to uni to learn everything. I'm on set now, and this technology and all these terminologies, I'm like a fish out of water. But technically, I'm trained, but I feel like I'm not. So it's interesting, like,
And that
it's
can, yeah, and that also, I guess, affects your confidence as well. Like, it makes you doubt yourself. But the reality is, learning is for life. Like, there are always things always going to evolve and change. So as long as you're open to that, as you said, drop the ego. Know that there's always something to learn, and you can learn from
yeah.
all sorts of different people.
And from people on set as well. Like, if you didn't have the
Yeah.
ego on set, like this person that this DOP that said for me, asked me to clear the room. If he just went, oh, this is what we call it now, I'd be like, sweet, now I know. So when I hear it next time,
Yes.
great. But it
Yeah.
kind of turned into this, what do you mean you don't know kind of conversation. I went, well, we don't need to have this conversation right now because we're about to film. Just, you could have just said, oh, that's
Yes.
just what it's called. I'm like, sweet, I didn't know. Now I know. Thanks. We move forward. Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be that complicated.
Yeah, that's true, because people kind of layer in their own judgments. If you're driven by the ego, it's a kind of
Yeah, exactly.
superiority sort of complex, which is, rife in our industry. Honestly, it is. But as you said before, though, like, surrounding yourself with people who really, support and nurture you, so important. So, when you had to rebuild your network after that time, you said, post COVID, were there any things you did differently than the first time when you were kind of already well known in the industry?
Yes, will be the short answer. I'm just trying to think of an example. I think, well, yeah, I didn't go in with ego. Actually, to be honest with you, I went in with vulnerability and just said, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve. Do you think you can help? I can't guarantee payment at this stage, but I will pay you. This is how I'm going to do that. Like, it's basically, I'm obviously being mature myself now. Like, I started in this industry at 18. I did my first short feature, 40-minute short film at 18, 19 years old, and had 16 crew. I had a 7 cast. Like, it was a massive production. No one got paid. And we filmed all over Melbourne. Like, for those that probably
Mhm.
won't know, but we went up to like the Yangs, Lara, right through the city. No petrol was covered. Just kind of painting a picture of, like, because the ego was telling me that, no, you're going to do this. I'm pretty sure I fed them. But anyway, you learn all these things, you know. Whereas now it's like, I will not go into production with, okay, I may not be able to pay you up front, but I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that, we're going to offer this. There'll be
Yeah.
a deferred payment option, or like your accommodation and food and travel will be paid for. This is what I can offer. Can you help me? I only need you for 5 hours. I can't pay you, but here's what you're going to get. Ideally, like, yeah, payment for me is after COVID. It's like, if I
Yes.
can't afford to pay someone, I probably won't do the film because I feel
Right.
bad now. But to sort of
Mm.
answer your question, that's kind of just what I did differently. I think I just really was honest. No ego, just basically, yeah, just honesty, just being vulnerable and honest. And it's worked so far.
Yeah. And then, do you
Um,
feel like you've ironed out your process now? Like, are you happy with the things you've put in place to create your projects?
Definitely. There's still work to be done, I think. I still don't have a full network or crew that I used to have. I've still got little bits here and there that I'm working on. But I'm sort of in a process with me in my career now where I'm happy to just kind of hire people for that project. And if I like them, I'll keep using them. If not, I'll just hire someone else. So I'm finding that just hiring new people as I go. And as I've been doing that over the last 2 years, there are probably, like, I now have a permanent DOP that I'll work with. I now have a permanent sound composer that I'll work with. So I'm slowly building my little network of crew. I think that actually one thing I've learned is I actually love working with new people. So if I like
Yeah.
their portfolio and I like what they're offering, I might still have my DOP that I'll always go back to, but I don't mind shooting, like, maybe the film that I'm trying to tell, I need that DOP because of their eye and their sort of flair of filming. So not being afraid to use new people because it might help your
Yeah.
story.
Yes, and I think that's an important thing to note for all creatives, because we need to support each other. We need to,
Yeah.
as a widen the community and not rely on the same talent, because there is so much talent out there that just need opportunities.
Yeah.
To date, what has been the highlight so far of your filmmaking journey, or you can answer both questions, or which part of the process do you enjoy most?
I think the biggest one actually probably that stands out for me is in 2017 or 18, one of the two. I went to Perth, WA, to shoot a 40-minute, supposed to be an actual, like, feature, 90 minutes, 120-page script. It ended up being cut down to just a 40-minute, kind of edited down to a 40-minute film. I was the only person. My art director, who was also my producer at the time, was living in Perth, and I wanted to work with her, and with the storyline, it kind of just sort of naturally developed that would be the best location. So it was really a highlight in a sense because I was using crew, cast, everything all in WA, and I'm based here in Melbourne. So trying to build all that, doing rehearsals via like Skype or Zoom. Well, Zoom, I think, was even invented then, but like doing FaceTime like rehearsals, it was such a unique experience because I wasn't there, but I was directing. I was a writer, director, and one of the executive producers, and ended up flying over. And we all paid for the actors. We went to like this big homestead. It was like an 8-bedroom sort of place where we filmed the whole film as well. And we all lived together for 2 weeks in this homestead. The cast, the crew, everyone. We all we had breakfast together. We had dinner together. And we became, I think it was at that point in my film career that I went, yeah, you can actually create real families. Like, I know your job becomes like your second home, your second family, but we actually, we went to bed, not together,
I got
but
ya.
like, I mean, we could have. But we went, we had
Mm.
dinner together, we woke up, we had our morning coffee and breakfast together. And then because we all filmed in that location, so, we would have breakfast, like coffee in the kitchen, but then it's like, okay, quick, we've got to get this ready for filming in the next hour. So it was like, I've never experienced living and filming with the cast and crew, all living in the same house, filming in the same house, like not separate location. Like some of the bedrooms the actors were sleeping in, we filmed in. So it became this real personal story that I'm really proud of. And it's really stayed with me, that experience. It was like, this is what I want to keep doing, that experience, that family. And I'm still, two of the actors I've got a really close bond with. So yeah, that to me was a big sort of highlight. The film didn't really do super well in the festival circuit, but talking about success, I
Yeah,
am so proud and successful for what I've accomplished from that film.
absolutely. And
You know,
and the relationships that you built.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So that's kind of a big highlight. I've got a short film that's coming out later this year that I think will be my next success story, but hasn't happened yet. But it's in the process now, and I'm really excited to get that one out.
Oh, wonderful. And you would just say that that's the part, because I did have that second question of
Uh,
which part of the process that you love, but I guess it kind of is it the same
I
answer,
think
don't
all
you?
of it.
Yeah.
I think, as a writer, it depends too. Like, I'm actually wanting to step away. Like, I don't want to direct anymore. So I'm stepping away permanently at this stage from that. I just want to sort of write and then edit. So for me, the whole process I really love. I mean, I still won't say no to directing because I think the director actor relationship is a bond no one can really understand. It's special. I don't even know how to describe it. It's such a unique bond. This person can be a complete stranger, but you're breaking them down emotionally and rebuilding them. It's just such a beautiful experience to see. So that I think because I love that so much, I never would I won't let go of that. I'll always would want to direct at some stage just to experience that emotion. But yeah, the whole from conception to completion, like I just love the whole. There's a different energy when you're on set. Like if you ever get the chance to be on a real set, there's a different energy. It's I can't explain it. I don't know. It's different, but it's brilliant.
I wish more people would open their mind to kind of like a setup like that. And I think that's what non-creatively inclined people just don't understand. Because for them, all they're seeing is just the aftermath, which is the
Yeah,
finished product and all the glamour that comes with it, awards season and all that. But they don't
yeah.
actually understand the process of making a movie and being part of a story and really connecting with people. And
I think because it's very rare to go on set. I mean, everyone loves to go to those like Universal, show like theme parks or movie world or whatever.
yeah,
And like if that excites you, imagine being on an actual set watching it raw. And if you felt a
yeah,
certain way I always say to my family, I go, if that movie made you cry because you got really sad by that emotion, imagine what on set would have been like. There would have been everyone would have been crying,
yes,
3 times or 4 times. They probably did that like 6 times, So it's like
yeah.
that one emotion that you're feeling would have been felt 10 times more on set.
Yes. Well, hopefully now that more productions are being made in Australia and because of streaming and there's more
Yeah.
content being made and it's more becoming more accessible in some way. Hopefully people start to be open to the process of filmmaking and really learn to honor it and appreciate it because I think that's where creatives get overlooked as well. As you said, the
Well,
real job thing.
look at the
Yeah.
writer's strike.
Yes.
That's a perfect
Yeah.
example. I mean,
Yep.
everyone's favorite shows all got delayed, and I think that's when people start to realize, oh, my series that I'm watching is now delayed by a year because they're not writing about it. It's like, well,
But there you
who do you
go.
think does it's still a
Yeah,
job? Yeah?
there
Like,
you go.
doesn't
Exactly.
just magically appear. Like,
Exactly. That's so true. That's so true. So again, that's one of the things that used to annoy me about the whole non-essential, essential workers kind of debate. Obviously, we know that we're not saving lives like,
no,
the frontliners and we understand that. Like
yeah,
as drop the ego. We know that that's not,
yeah,
our purpose, but at the same time what the work we do is important. The stories that we're telling are changing minds, they're changing,
yeah.
moving, touching
They're still
hearts and stuff.
influencing, so
Yes.
we still have some impact. Yeah, like 100%.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna hit you with the sort of harder, maybe deeper
Oh, here we
questions,
go.
but I think your story and your career journey, and your creative journey, overall, kind of spoke to it anyway. But I want to know from your personal perspective how you define courage. So, with all things considered, everything that you've learned and experienced, what does courage look like to you?
I think for me, courage is hard. It's not easy. And I think for me, it's just finding that I spoke before about that inner fire and stuff. It's just finding what it is within you, whatever strength, whatever motivates you, whatever influence, whatever works for you, is finding that deep within and bringing it to the surface. And it's like I sort of represent courage with confidence. So it's kind of like it's having the confidence to either speak your mind or even maybe saying no. Like sometimes saying no can take courage. We say yes too easily and then we get hurt. Too many of us are afraid to say no. Yeah, and even rejection. That's kind of like this combination of like confidence and rejection. Like just finding that fire. Is there any way I can kind of really, it's or spark, whatever it is that's just deep within, just bringing that to the surface and going, no, I'm not going to do that, or we should do more of this, or I need this from you, or just not being afraid to voice what it is that needs to be voiced to get the results that you want to get, and not being afraid of the rejection that might come from it. Just keep going because, yeah, it's worth it in the end.
Perhaps we don't do that much enough. Like we don't take the time to actually think about what we want. and
Yeah.
what we want to do. So as you said, yeah, just thinking about what lights you up, that fire in you, what it is you want to actually create or do in life, which is so important.
And if you
Um,
don't know too, don't be discouraged,
yeah,
because I didn't for so long. So yeah, don't on the opposite side of that, don't feel like, well, I don't know what I want to do. So what's the point? It's like you'll work it out. It took me years. It might not take you the same amount of time, but if it doesn't take you a few hours or a few days, don't be like, oh well, don't be discouraged by that. Like
yeah.
give it the time that it needs to grow.
Yes, having the courage to not know or to be
Yeah,
okay with the uncertainty of it. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Being okay with uncertainty because we tend to want answers to everything all the time.
yeah.
Whereas it's okay to not know. It's a virtue that is, complemented well by other kind of traits and mindsets. So I want to know, if we're thinking of courage like your main course, like a plate of
Okay.
courage,
Yeah.
what other mindsets or habits, traits would be a good side dish to courage, do you think?
Well, I probably sort of said with courage, you need confidence, I think, on some level. I know for me, especially, I don't want to contradict myself either because if you don't have if you don't have the confidence, doesn't mean you can't have the courage. The confidence does kind of, I suppose, help as a side dish.
Mm.
I'm going to reverse on that and say not so much confidence, but believing in yourself. That sort of self belief. So it's so easy to self doubt. I'm a big person who, doesn't believe in myself at the best of times. And that can be okay too. But I think it's just having that belief and that knowing your worth as well. I think it's like knowing your worth, what you can do. And not let, like with myself, having family and friends and close people to me say, well, you can't really do this, or what are you doing, or you're not going to amount to anything because it's not a real career. It's going, well, I know my worth. I know that I'm good at what I do. It's not an ego thing. It's just I know my worth and I know how much I'm worth as well. Like if don't be afraid to go, well, no, I'm going to charge you this amount an hour because that's my worth. Be reasonable. It's like, for example, if someone is asking you to do a job and they've got a bit of a budget or something, unless you really want to do it for free, don't be afraid to go, well, I need something, even if it's $150 or something for the day. Don't be afraid to know what your worth is and go, well, I won't do it for free. I want to help you, but I just can't do it for free. I'm sorry. The person, if they really want to work with you, 9 times out of 10, if not more, they'll come back and go, okay, yep, I'll pay you for the day. No worries. It might not be your full wage, but it's something. So,
So not selling yourself short.
yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the self-worth is really important. So, and like obviously there's that you need that confidence. So it's finding just that little bit of to go, you know what? But I think it's more self-worth than confidence. If you know what your worth is, then it shouldn't be hard to be like, well, sorry, like I want to help you from the bottom of my heart. I really do, but I just can't do it for free this week. Maybe ask me next time, but right now I just can't. And I say that to my clients all the time. Like I do free work a lot, but if I can't that week because I'm either too busy or I just financially can't, I'll say, look, I'm sorry. I believe in you. I want to help you, but I just can't work for free this week. So if you can't
Yeah.
pay me, ask me another time because I would love to work with you at some stage.
Knowing your worth, that's important, especially in this industry, because
Yeah.
there is a lot of people that take advantage, and there is a lot of us doing work for free, and
Yeah. And the
that
thing
kind
is,
of
too,
thing.
if you do work for free, that's great. Like, but be very clear in your terms and conditions almost. Like, you just keep working for free, then people keep asking you to do more free stuff. So if you kind of go, I'll
Yes.
help you, just put boundaries, I suppose, better word to use.
Yep.
Because otherwise, yeah, I could, if you work for me for free, I'll then go tell someone else in the industry, oh yeah, use this person, they'll do it for free, no worries. And then
Yes.
you will. So because it came through a recommendation, but yeah, put boundaries.
Yes.
It's
That's
it's it's a
good.
tricky one.
Yeah, but that's good practical advice, really, honestly. Like if you, especially most of us end up freelancing or starting our own business, you have to know what you're worth. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. So in the context of not just career, but in achieving the things you desire in life, what are some other things you'd like to share with our listeners? Any other words of encouragement?
Just as I said, don't give up. It's the only thing, and because that applies to any job, any career, any day, every day in life. Just don't give up because that's easy. It's easy to give up than to keep trying, and it's actually true if you think about it. To give up is so easy. You just stop. It's like, just hang up the conversation, just end the podcast, just not get out of bed tomorrow. That's so easy, isn't it? Like, just give up. But it's too easy, and you don't want to do that because you won't actually, you won't progress. So don't give up, basically, like, because that's too easy. Keep trying, even when it's tough, even when you get to that point where you're banging your head up against the wall, or you've hit that blockage, or you've just hit that point where you're thinking, I'm just not moving forward. I've tried every avenue. I can guarantee you haven't. There's something you haven't tried. There's an angle you haven't tried. There's a door you haven't opened. Sometimes if it's not clear and if it's not making sense, just take a break for a second. Step away from the project. Put that laptop away. Stop applying for funding. Just stop for a second and come back to it in a couple of days' time with fresh eyes, or get fresh opinion from someone else. But I always find, and it's worked with me, and everyone's different, of course, but I just find that when I'm hitting my blockage, or I'm like thinking, why is this just not working? And I'm not understanding or seeing why, I just need to take a break from it, and I'll come back to it in a couple of days, and see what the possibility is. As I've stepped into more editing, I've realized that I could spend hours and hours, days and days trying to edit like a 2-minute clip. And I'm like, this thing is just not making sense. It's not working. And it could be something as like a 1-second edit that needs to be done to make it make sense. Like, the smallest little tweak makes the biggest difference in editing. But I apply that to everyday life. The smallest little like thing that you need to do, your application might need just 1 or 2 words changed.
Ooh,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it, that when I say thing outside the square, really, like, it could be just, there could be one, it could just be one sentence or one paragraph in your application or in your pitch that's not working. And once you change that, it just changes the whole like dynamic. So if it's not working, really look at it in different angles, not just straight on, because something,
Yeah.
like, as I said, with editing, I did it the other day and it freaked me out. It literally, it was a 1.8 second cut. And
Wow.
all it was from one scene to the other, and it just wasn't blending, but it made that whole scene look horrible. As soon as I just trimmed one side of that cut, it just flowed so much better.
Oh,
And it was like, it was a 1.8 second cut that changed that whole scene. So yeah, you've got
that's
to look at it from that, if that makes sense.
yeah. No, I love that. I love an editing metaphor. That's cool because it's like, yeah, just the tiniest little thing, and yeah, as you said, applying it to life, like just the smallest little change, whether it's got to do with your mindset or just
Yeah.
like one tiny little habit, getting up, half an hour earlier in the
Yeah.
morning, that kind of thing. It can be so powerful, can change the course
Even
of
like
things.
something stupid like, yeah, changing your milk, changing the berries, changing, like, just change one thing that you wouldn't think of, because we all get stuck in routine. I think that's what it is. It's routine.
Yeah.
So if you change something out of that routine, so when you're in that routine, you don't know it's the same and it's worked for so long, but sometimes the routine doesn't work all the time. It might work for years, months, days, but eventually that routine gets bored and tired. But you don't know because you're just so used to doing that. But
Yeah.
once you change that routine by getting up half an hour earlier, having, I don't know, oat milk instead of almond milk in your latte, something
Yeah.
stupid like that. But
Yeah.
those little changes, honestly, they domino effect into bigger changes and make
Yes.
such bigger differences. And until you make that one change, you're not going to see that result down the track.
Yeah. And you just need a little bit of courage, just a little burst of courage
Little bit.
just to change something up, because you're right. We get stuck. We get stuck into our old habits and things that we don't even realize aren't really working for us.
Yeah.
That, we just have to stop for a moment. And like you said, step away and then revisit and just go, oh, gosh, 1.8 seconds made such a big
Honestly,
difference.
I'm going to be an example for the rest of my life, because that blew my mind. And I've only just started editing, so I'm sure
Yeah.
other editors can probably speak for themselves. But it was 1.8 seconds, and that, I don't think people realize that you won't even see it, because 1.8, like 1 second and 8 microseconds, like, it's such a short time frame, but the result was, it changed the entire scene, and it blew my mind. I was like, 1 second. I had to literally even press the cursor so gently just to get it
Yeah.
right. Like, it wasn't like half a minute, or it was 1.8 seconds. Like, it's crazy, and all it was because the hand was moving, it just didn't move as much. And so when it cut, it just synced up better to the other hand moving. And
Yes.
that's all it was.
I love that. That's so good. Really good. Now, Michael, I just want to take a moment just to say thank you, not only for spending this time with me today and sharing your story and, giving us really valuable advice about what it takes to build a career in the creative industry, but also just for being an example of courage. Ever since meeting you quite recently, like I had known of you because obviously our mutual friend is your cousin, Veronica. So shout out to Ronnie. She's probably listening to this.
Hey, Reba.
But we met obviously for the first time in person at her wedding recently. And you were filming that wedding, by the way.
Yeah, I was.
So he was actually
Definitely.
on duty, with walking around with a camera. But I think from that moment we met and I, had a minute to chat with you over dinner and just learn about what you do and your passion for filmmaking. I just immediately saw you as someone who just exemplified that courage, that was so, as you said, had a fire inside of you that I could see, and I could feel. And it's rare to have that sometimes, when you're in social situations, you don't always meet people that you kind of have that synergy or creative passion that you share. But you were that person, and between you working the room and, and filming, and you were telling my sister and I about the film that you're working on currently and the script that you're writing and your plan for it and the actors that you were casting. I could see someone who was just so alive and so with fire with the craft, and that inspired me because I think sometimes I get a little bit down about this career calling that I have as well to be a creative, and sometimes I think that I'm not brave enough to just go out there and make my dreams come true, that I lack the motivation or I do feel discouraged sometimes. But to meet someone like you who showed that if you persist, if you just go for it, you can do things and you are doing great things. So learning more about your story today just makes me more motivated in my own career trajectory. And I'm sure everyone listening could feel the same because you've got a natural optimistic energy about you. And I can see that these stories that are inside of you, we talked about this off screen as well, but that you don't know why, but they're in you. And
Yeah.
I have full confidence learning more about who you are, that you're going to go make them happen. And I can't wait for the world to see the stuff that you create. So thank you for being that example of courage for me.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, no, thank you. I struggle to get compliments, but I'll take that. No, thank you, because as I said, not having that sort of feedback most of my life, it's refreshing. So I do really appreciate that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and it's true. It's true. Honestly, like I lean on people who I can really learn from and feel like I'm doing good things as well. Because I think, as you said, self-doubt is a big part of being a
Yeah.
creative. We're so self-critical, and we can be burdened by fears. But everything that you shared today just made me realize, well, if I just continue on this path, continue to look at the stuff and appreciate the stuff that I'm doing, the process of it, then we can find that joy and fulfillment in what we do. So where can people connect with you and learn a bit more about your work?
So it's basically vimeo.com / Michael Dimarco. My show reel's there. Facebook page. If you want to, Facebook's the only other thing that I've really got that's public, and that's just facebook.com / MJD Media. All my film and media updates are done via that page, and then obviously all the showreel stuff gets done on the Vimeo page.
Wonderful. Well, we'll link all of that in our show notes. So, Michael Dimarco, it has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.